How to identify the domain and range of a function? Yan ang pag-uusapan natin ngayon sa ating matsayang talakayan. Kaya, stay tuned! Hello, grade 8 learners! For today's video, we will tackle about domain and range of a function. At the end of this video, you will be able to find the domain and range of a function. Okay, so let us first define a domain and range. So domain of a function is the set of all permissible values of x that give real values for y. Ibig sabihin, when we say permissible, these are the allowed values of x. Yung possible na po pwede na maging value ng x, which will give also a real value for y. While in the range is the set of all permissible values of y or f of x, which will give the values of x real numbers. Ibig sabihin, kailangan lahat ng permissible value ng x that will give a real number, which is the value of x. So let's now have our first example using a graph. So we are going to identify or find the domain and range of the given graph. So anong mapapansin natin? Sa graph, meron tayong arrow head. Anong ibig sabihin ng arrow head ng magkabilaan? Arrowheads indicate that the graph of a function extends on both directions. Ibig sabihin, pwede mag-extend pa ito pataas, pwede ring mag-extend dito pababa. It extends to the right and extends to the left without bound. Ibig sabihin, habang nag-e-extend yung graph natin pataas, is nag-e-extend din siya to the right and kung pababa to the left nang walang hanggan. So, the domain of a function will now be the set of real numbers. Okay, ganun din. Habang nag-extend upward and downward nang walang hanggan, the range will be all set of real numbers. So we can read that as domain is equal to x such that x is an element of real numbers. And the range y such that y is an element of real numbers. Next graph. Example, we have to find the range and the domain of the given graph. So arrowheads on the graph indicate that the graph of the function extends to the left and right without bound. Ang ibig sabihin nito, habang nag-extend itong arrow na ito, mag-extend, the graph will be extended to the right and also be extended to the left nang walang hanggan. Another is, ang graph din natin ay nag-e-extend downward nang walang hanggan din, but not upward. So, hindi na siya pataas, kundi pababa lang. So, tingnan natin sa domain, since nag-extend siya without bound on left and right, so we have the domain as set of real numbers. And sa range, dahil nag-extend lang siya pababa, at ang pinakamataas lang na nadaanan ng graph natin ay nandito sa may 0, so ibig sabihin, ang range natin is less than or equal to 0. Ibig sabihin, lahat ng mga values ng y na madadaanan niya ay nandun sa mga negative numbers at hindi na lalagpas sa 0. Next graph. So, tingnan natin ulit yung kanyang arrowhead. Arrowhead here indicates that the graph of the function extends to the right, nag-extend dito, papunta sa right, ng walang hanggan, and upward din without bound. So, ang domain natin is greater than 0 kasi nag-umpisa siya sa x from 0 papunta sa right, kaya greater than 0. At ang range naman natin ay set of real numbers which is greater than or equal to -4. Kasi nga, nag-umpisa siya mula dito sa -4 pataas. Next graph, what do you think is the domain? You are correct. The domain is any real numbers greater than or equal to 0. Since ang graph natin ay nag-start mula dito sa x sa 0 and going to the right without bound. How about the range? The range is set of real numbers which is also greater than or equal to 0. Again, nag-umpisa yung y natin o yung graph natin dito sa y papunta sa taas wherein ang starting point is 0. So that's why we have greater than or equal to 0. Okay, next graph. Anong mapapansin natin sa graph? Mapapansin natin sa graph that there is a line or broken line. Okay? So ano ang broken line na ito? Itong nandito. So ang broken line na ito ay tinatawag natin na asymptote. Okay? So ano ba ang ibig sabihin ng asymptote? Ibig sabihin, itong line na ito is the graph of a function approaches but never intersect at x-axis. So ibig sabihin, ang graph natin, kahit na mag-extend papunta sa left yan, it will never intersect o hindi siya dadaan sa x-axis. So the value of y equals 0 will not be part of the range. Kaya, sa domain natin, since nag-extend siya sa left at nag-extend siya sa right, without bound, so we can say that the domain is all set of real numbers. And for y, since hindi siya dadaan doon sa x-axis, hindi na siya bababa doon, then y will be greater than 0. Okay, next graph. So what do you think is the domain of the graph? You're correct. The domain are set of real numbers. Bakit? Because it extends without bound from left at saka right. How about the range? The range is equal to 5. Why? Because, tingnan natin, ang y natin ay nandoon lang siya sa 5. Hindi siya lumipat sa 5. Okay, so if the function is in the form of y equals f of x, or it is an equation, so here are now the guidelines. First, exclude the values of x that make the denominator of a fraction 0. Halimbawa, ang given function mo is a fraction. When there is a variable that the value makes the denominator 0, then hindi kasama sa domain natin yon. Okay? How about if we have a square root? So we are going to exclude the value of x that make a negative value within the square root. Ibig sabihin, kapag ang nasa loob ng radical sign natin ay naging negative or imaginary, then hindi natin isasama yung value ng variable na yun. So let's have our example. We will find the domain and range of the function without using the graph. If we are going to assign, let's say, value for x, can you assign any value of x on the given function? Of course, yes. So, ibig sabihin, pwede kang mag-assign ng 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, or any positive value or even negative value. But still, the function will not be undefined. So, we can now say that the domain there are all set of real numbers. How about the range? Okay, correct. The range is also the set of real numbers. So next example, let's find the domain and range. F of x is equal to square root of x minus 2. Subukan muna natin mag-assign ng value. So let's have x is equal to 2. Substitute lang natin. So we have f of 2 is equal to 2 or square root of 2 minus 2, which is equivalent to 0. Since naging 0 yung value ng function natin, then 2 is still allowed or permissible. Kapag tataasan natin, magiging 3 halimbawa, 3 minus 2. So, 3 minus 2 is 1 is square root of 1. So, permissible pa rin. If we are going to have a lower value, so let's say 1. Substitute. The result is square root of negative 1, which is imaginary. Ibig sabihin, kapag naging imaginary yung function natin, yung value ng x na inassign natin is not included in the domain. So the domain is any set of real numbers which is greater than or equal to 2. And the range now will be greater than or equal to 0. So let's find the domain and range of a function without the graph. We have f of x is equal to x plus 3 over x minus 2. Let's try to assign value for x. Let's say x is equal to 2. Ano ang mangyayari kung ang value ng x ay 2? So, subukan nating i-substitute. So, magiging 2 plus 3 is 5, then 2 minus 2 is 0. So, the value is 5 over 0, which is undefined. So, ibig sabihin, 2 is not permissible as the value of our domain. It is excluded as the value of the domain. So, the domain is any real numbers which is not equal to 2. How about the range? The range is any value for y which is not equal to 1. So what will happen if it is equal to 1? So let us try. If y is 1, the equation will become 1 is equal to x plus 3 over x minus 2. By cross multiplication, this is the result. And combining similar terms, so x minus x will become 0 and 2 plus 3 is equal to 5, which is not true or that is incorrect. And now it's your turn. You have to find the domain and range of the given function with a given graph. And for letter B, find the domain and range of a function without the graph. We have f of x is equal to 3x plus 5. And that's for today, guys. Mag-practice at magtiyaga upang lalong maging magaling. Again, this is Teacher Dali na nagsasabing, practice makes perfect. Thanks for watching!